Are you tired of flying economy long haul? Are you exhausted with getting served meal after meal after meal? Is getting a good night's sleep in business overrated? Introducing Jetstar's long haul service, flying the way you want. Fly easy without having to be bombarded with complimentary food and drinks. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Don't want an IFE system? No problem. A starter fare gets you 7 kilograms of carry-on and a seat. Amazing! For more information, call 1-800-JETSTAR. That's 1-800-JETSTAR. But we're not done yet. Stay tuned to learn more about what Jetstar has to offer and this amazing experience. Good morning and welcome back to another video. Well, it's finally come time to fly on an ultra low-cost carrier on a long-haul flight. And we've flown many budget airlines in the past, and I would say with pretty favorable results, but those have been for regional and domestic flights, nothing as long as we're going to fly today. We'll be flying with Jetstar from Brisbane up to Osaka, Kansai. Now, if you talk to your favorite economists, they're going to say there's no such thing as a free lunch, and perhaps this is no truer than with an ultra low cost. The flight is set to depart at 11:40 a.m., so come along as we go from A to B. And long story short, let's see how much lunch is going to cost. Located about 12 kilometers northeast of Brisbane's central business district, the airport is the third largest airport in the country after Sydney and Melbourne, with separate domestic and international terminals. Osaka Kansai is one of roughly 29 international destinations the airport serves. This morning, the check-in floor didn't appear overly burdensome at about 9 a.m. We are flying once again with Jetstar for our flight back to Japan. And funny thing, this was not my intended airline to fly this day when initially planning this trip. More on that after check-in. From my experience, a low-cost carrier has their share of strengths and weaknesses, and for Jetstar, one area that deserves recognition is check-in. Being able to complete it online and print out the boarding tags at the kiosk definitely gets things off to a good start, and today was no different. Bag drop-off was equally as convenient, and soon enough, we continued on our way. On this trip, like many of my other Jetstar trips, the carry-on was never checked for weight, but as I mentioned 2 videos prior, keep within the parameters of your ticket and everything will go smooth. It appears the departure floor doesn't have too much in the way to pass the time, but down a flight of stairs where the arrivals is located is more promising. Since we arrived at the airport with plenty of time, a pre-departure cappuccino was in order, one of the many things I miss in Australia. As I take a moment to enjoy this cup of joe, why Jetstar? Last year, if you recall, we flew Virgin Australia from Cairns to Tokyo, which, besides that ravioli dish, was not a bad flight, and it arrived in Haneda. But Virgin Australia has since removed that line from its network in February 2025, leaving Jetstar as the only budget carrier connecting Australia and Japan. I was looking at T-Way out of Korea, which flies our A330 to Sydney and offered much better fares than Jetstar. But their booking system requires them to email a certification number or something like that, which didn't appear to show up in the email, and after struggling for some time, I gave up and booked with Jetstar. Gateside has a large open area with a few shops and cafes, with seating in the central area where passengers can hang out until it's time to head to the gate. The selection of shops is not as vast as the domestic terminal, but appears sufficient for the volume the airport handles.
Attention please. Jetstar flight 023 to Osaka Kansai is now boarding through gate 86.
And we arrived at the gate as boarding got underway. And here's our Dreamliner, which will take us to Osaka Kansai. If there's one thing the Brisbane International Terminal has, it's nice large windows to check out the planes. And as we walk towards the plane, I'll take this moment to welcome new viewers to the channel and invite you to subscribe for continued travel and aviation related content, where you can check out Peach Airlines, another low-cost carrier which serves Asia. Today we're seated in 54J, the last row for passengers, which is perfect for those traveling together, as there's no middle seat due to the tapering design of the airframe, and you get a bit more space for your belongings. Row 55 is used as a crew rest area, as there's no sleeping quarters located upstairs on the Jetstar Dreamliner. Before we get rolling, let's check out what you can expect in the cabin. With it being a Dreamliner, it's going to look like this for the duration of the flight, even though most of the flight is during daylight. Jetstar's Dreamliners are laid out in a standard 333 configuration with 314 seats. Row 54 and 55 are narrowed to a 232 configuration, with those window seats providing a bit more space, as previously mentioned. Seats are dark grey, with a lighter seat back, with orange accents such as the tray table knob, armrest, and LED lighting. In fact, the cabin looks quite pleasant with the orange LED lighting, which is used at nighttime for boarding and deplaning, and I wish they used this lighting throughout the flight when some light was needed. Seats are a step up from their single aisle fleet, with added padding and an adjustable headrest, which was well received for these longer flights. No pillows or blankets are provided on these flights, but can be purchased. Seatback contains the IFE screen, with a headphone and USB port underneath. Below that is the tray table and seat pocket, which contains the in-flight menu, which we'll dig into shortly, and the safety card. Seat pitch comes in at 30 inches, up to 2 inches more than their single aisle fleet, and the added space is welcomed. And above you have access to the reading light and air control, and underneath, the green hue indicates a power outlet. I found they kept the cabin on the cool side. Since no blankets are provided, would recommend to have a light jacket or sweater handy. Other than that, for a budget airline, I was satisfied with the hard product. It's not the best in the world, but most certainly not the worst. The cabin was clean and the seat was reasonable. The cabin is more comfortable compared to the regional fleet. Jetstar has 11 of the Dash 8 variant of the Dreamliners fitted with 355 seats across 2 classes. Ours is just about 10 years old, being delivered to Jetstar in 2015. Jetstar Airways, out of Australia, is the only Jetstar company to have these wide-body aircraft in their fleet. They also contain Jetstar's business class, a term I'm going to use loosely, and it's something I've been seeing popping up on other budget carriers. And there's 6 lavatories on board. Have a flying time of 8 hours and 33 minutes to reach Kansai Airport, landing at 7:35 p.m. There are 2 meal services on this flight, and the first one started efficiently soon after takeoff. The menu is identical to the one found on regional flights, and with these routes, the international meals are available. Service is done with 1 cart in each section of economy. They would serve the pre-ordered meals from the left aisle first, followed by the right aisle, and then doubling back, taking requests from the menu. So if you didn't pre-order a meal, it would take some time before the crew got to you for the a la carte service. 1 meal was included in our fare for this trip, and I went with lasagna. Pre-ordered meals come with 1 hot drink, either tea or coffee. I found the portion size generous. Now, it's lasagna after all, so presentation is, well, what you see here. It had a lighter taste, lighter profile than what one may think when you think of lasagna, but it was not bad. On the inbound flight, I got the teriyaki noodles, which was also not a bad choice, and I preferred this meal over lasagna. Here's the pumpkin and feta quiche and spinach ricotta roll, and this was my least favorite. I found the pastry doughy and not much taste except for the added ketchup, and would probably pass on this. The lasagna did the trick for a quick lunch, but I felt the crispy bacon egg sandwich, which I had for breakfast on the regional Jetstar flight a few days earlier, was better than all dishes which I had on my international flights. And maybe there has to be more consistency in Jetstar's menu, as some dishes seemed very good while others were less desirable. But the menu is fairly sizable, so you should be able to find something you're after. Anyway, time to relax as we continue to make our way north. And here's a look at the washroom at the rear of the plane. The crew kept it clean throughout the flight. And there's these added sanitizing wipes on the countertop, which is not a bad idea to have on these flights. The sink worked perfectly fine, by the way. Some airlines use wipes in lieu of a sink, but there was no problem with the waterworks here. The IV system is not complimentary, with it costing 15 Australian dollars if purchased on board. Unlike everything else with budget carriers, cheaper if selected online. Whether purchasing a plan is worthwhile is an individual choice. I purchased for only one of our screens simply to evaluate the product. There appears to be a wide range of movies and shows, so if you're into that, it might be worth it. I should note, though, on my outbound trip, the IP monitor didn't work. It just cycled through the ads, and I had to ask the crew to reset it 3 times before it finally worked properly. Happily, the moving map is still available without the purchase of an IV plan. There is no Wi-Fi on these planes yet, but my understanding is that Jetstar will start to refurbish the Dreamliners with Wi-Fi and added features in the not too distant future. To pass the time, I crushed out the University of Waterloo's 2025 Fermat's Math Contest. Oh yeah. 90 minutes before landing, there was a second service. I kept it pretty simple and I got a cup of tea and enjoyed the kangaroo jerky I picked up at the airport. When it comes to purchasing tickets, it does take time to ensure that you select the correct fare suitable for your trip. For the pre-ordered meals, you also have to select whether you want it on the first or second service. There's a voucher which will give you a bit of a discount for the onboard menu. And then you can choose if you want to purchase the IV system or not. It's about half the price compared to buying it on board, so it's much better to buy it if you anticipate to catch a movie or two. Overall, the flight was not bad. I thought the hard product was reasonable for the most part. I did have that issue with the IV system on my outbound flight, but I understand equipment fails from time to time, and it worked well at the end. Pre-ordering extras before your flight is a great way to provide efficient service for passengers. However, there is a caveat with the system. In the event your flight is delayed, you can't defer your meal. On our outbound trip to Australia a week earlier, the flight was delayed by 3 hours, so the meal service happened around midnight, and had I not paid for it, I would have skipped the service for sleep. There is a notable difference in service compared to the mainline carriers, which tends to have a more refined service. For example, I had to use the call bell 3 times to reset the IV system, where a more proactive crew would check to ensure the reset took place properly. I did feel the crew on this flight did meet my expectations more than on my outbound trip. They checked the cabin routinely, offered water, and overall, worked hard. We flew Jetstar from Tokyo down and returned back to Osaka. And the biggest aspect that turned out was the lack of consistency between the 2 flights. I thought this flight was much better than the first. We have seen a consistent Jetstar product on regional routes, and I didn't feel that level of consistency on these longer flights. That being said, would I fly them again long haul? And well, if the price is right, sure. That being said, I did enjoy the Virgin Australia flight a year ago more, so I probably would shop around before settling on Jetstar, but maybe I'll touch base with them in a year or two when they have their refurbished Dreamliners. The price of this one-way ticket from Brisbane to Osaka came out to 612 Australian dollars. And we offset 1.06 tons of carbon for this flight. Total carbon offsets can be found on the channel's page. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on Jetstar's long-haul service, and I'll catch you in the next episode.